It has been a wonderful opportunity to learn more about the great community that was the original Fulton community, which for a long time people called Fulton Bottom, but we don't call it that, so everybody call it Fulton Bottom. And today, we are blessed to have this group of people here today to tell us their firsthand account of what they saw and what they experienced growing up in historic Fulton before it disappeared. So without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Linda Eggister Sutton and James Morrell Chambliss to talk about historic Fulton.
Take a little trip, take a little trip, take a little trip with me. Take a little trip, take a little trip, take a little trip, you will see. Been years since I sang the choir at Mount Calvary Baptist Church, but with remnants of song I still have left in me, I'm trying to get you to see I'm fishing. I want a fish or fishes to bite. As is the fish that Jesus fed the people. I want you to follow with me. And I'm taking you on a trip back through time as it relates to historic Fulton. Normally, traditionally, most charrettes, when they put on, they like to talk from maybe the past to the present, or vice versa, present to the past. I'm going to take on some points, and I would be here until the cows come home if I really delve into the minutia as far as what I want to leave you with. This table is full of literature as it relates to the history of Fulton. One particular paper I wrote as an undergraduate at VCU. Now, I'm an urban studies minor with a major in environmental and urban planning and a master's in public administration. So I've worked with, especially young men back on the camera, where he's right there, Liam. He's also a fellow classmate of mine in the same discipline. So I'm all over the place. I chose on many occasions to use historic Fulton as a case study and the relationship it shared with not only the federal government, but with the local governments, as far as the city of Richmond, city councils, and the relationship and things that took place as it dealt with Richmond Redevelopment Housing Authority, which ushered in basically the destruction and demise of the entire neighborhood. So as you traverse to and from, coming down Government Road, or coming down Government Road going up to Williamsburg Avenue, coming down Williamsburg Avenue, Stony Run, just take a look over to your right, or take a look over to your left, and take that trip with me. Don't believe your lying eyes. Because what you see there now is what not was there in the past. We can go all the way back to the colonization of this country. And we can talk about Captain John Smith and Christopher Newport and the likes. As they traveled up the James River, they encountered Powhatan or Powhatan, and in the Powhatan Nation, and discussions taking place, so on and so forth. But at one point, Liam, do me a favor. Of course, the battery. That term you turned me on to, the second bullet. None such without equal. I don't know who penned that, but who authored it was making reference to historic Fulton. None such, which means without equal. There's an article here, Style Magazine, published September 12, 2007, and I fell in love with it. The greatest place on earth. Again, making reference to historic Fulton. I think another goal we have here today is to make a distinction between the three neighborhoods. Historic Fulton, Fulton Bottom, some people refer to it. We from Fulton, indigenous people, really don't like to go there because the bottom had negative connotations to it. And we felt like we were on the top of the world, greatest place on earth. Montrose Heights and Fulton Hill. So again, not to belabor any points, or to bore you with historical facts and data and all that. Everyone here has been to a history class, American history, Virginia history, whatever type of history. We're not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. The in-house historian, Mr. Keith Beverly, sitting over there, peering at me to tell me, wind it up. But the points, the way I look at it, everything that's happening here, and it's happening and replicated all across the face of this nation, okay? And as the sides, and I ad-lib. I'm all over the place. I try to stay to a script. It's impossible. I am actually a descendant of a Baptist preacher. And I don't know what they do, but it's in me. They don't follow the script even if they follow the Bible. But the Bible is...
Excuse me.
Oh, that's my spiritual advisor right there, Miss Pat Perez. She keeps me on track too, spiritual. But geopolitics, which is a global thing, some terms I'd like to leave you with, to take with you to research, genocide. If you don't know what they mean, I'm certain you do. Eminent domain, genocide, gentrification, colonialism, displacement, land grab, Richmond, Virginia master plans, environmental injustice, ecological plans, and ecological racism. The devil is in the details. So on that note, I'm going to pass the baton off to my able-bodied sister of Greater Fulton, or excuse me, Fulton, and Miss Linda Sutton.
As I always introduce myself, I always say, hi, my name is Linda Diane Eggerster Sutton. I was born and raised at 208 Orleans Street. I am an original Rockette. They said at one point that we didn't exist. It was so crazy when they said that in Rockette Landing we didn't exist. I went to a meeting up at Carver School. I'll never forget, and a gentleman stood up and said, well, the only thing that was in Rockett's Landing was warehouses and industrial buildings. So I laughed and I kept my cool, and when it was over, I went to him and I said, hello, and he said, hi, and I went, boom, and he went, what's that for? I said, because you said we didn't exist. I said, in Rockettes, we did exist. There were families that lived. Denny Street, which Reverend Mary Perez, she's on Rockette, 500 block. I was in the 200 block. We lived in Rockettes. There were homes on Main Street. Now the flood has been going on since 1886. They've always had floods. They put up walls. The highest flood waters was in 1936 when it went up to 28.5 feet. So they had to raise that wall up a little bit. So now you think having floods in Fulton from 1886 and people still live there. The last flood that we had was in 1972. 50 families had to actually leave out from there. We had all the floods. Go back to the one, yeah, look, the fire, when those tanks blowed up, look when it was, July the 4th, with an explosion. July the 4th of 1963. Where were we? Still living in Rockette. When that second tank, we felt the flames. It was time for us to go. Where did we go? We didn't leave Fulton. We all had family and friends on the other side of Williamsburg. Now, pray tell, there was a part of Fulton that they did call Fulton Bottom, which was on Center Street and Lewis Street. Where Reverend Perez and I lived, we were Rockettes. Where Larcenia, Keith, and Marrell, they were the field on the other side, which was actually Fulton. But family was all over. So when people said that, oh, the flood came up on Fulton Hill, how in the world would a flood come up on Fulton Hill when it didn't even hit 208 Orleans Street? And I'm a few blocks from the flood waters. So that wasn't true. It did, and some of the people stuff that floated up landed in some of families' homes. But you know what we did? We picked ourselves up, cleaned up our home, and continued to live. This was our community. In this community, look at here. He has a list. I always say, I know all y'all have been to Short Pump. Well, let me tell you something. We were the first Short Pump. Let me tell you about that. Short Pump in historic Fulton, every store there was. Movie theaters, ice cream parlors, furniture stores, department stores, churches, and it wasn't just Baptist. Reverend Perez, she went to the Catholic school. She didn't go to school with us, but we've been friends since 5 years old. So if you look, as they talk about the Bethlehem Center, which we had a picture of the RCAP. All of us went to the RCAP. All of us that went to the RCAP, our first job, we got good jobs. My first job when I went to the RCAP, I was working at Fulton Mars in the lab department wearing the lab coat, testing them, test the tobacco. Bethlehem Center was where we first started off before Westford Davis. That was like kindergarten for us before we went to D. Westford Davis. Now, Westford Davis go way back because there was a school back in 1899 that was on Orleans Street. Wasn't so successful, so then they wind up putting Westford Davis. My uncle, which is 95, he went to Westford Davis. My mom and all our mom, this is Westford Davis. And these are our parents on this picture. And Britel, we got clothes on. They got clothes on. I know that you used to hear that story about, oh, we so poor, we didn't have shoes, we didn't have clothes. But this is us at the Bethlehem Center. Looking just like normal children that look now with nice clothes on. This is actually us going to How the West Was Won out well along. Oh, where am I? Right there. So you know I'm not talking about nobody else. I'm talking about us. All my friends that I grew up with. Now, we had pianos in our house. 50 cents a lesson on Saturday. Mr. Browns used to come to their house. Piano in the living room. Maria, piano in the living room. Modern dance, twirling batons, tap dancing. Whatever you do now, we had back then. Wasn't anything that you could see, including Westford Davis, that we didn't have, that other families didn't have. But it was one thing, and they always do it now. Whenever you see or they talk about something that's going on in the community, they always seem to pick the worst spot, the wrong person to put on screen. So what they would do is when they came to Fulton, they would always pick the worst house. And it wasn't our houses, it was the slumlords, and that's what I call them, slumlords. The people that was renting their homes, because the majority of us, they had brought out, my granddaddy owned his house. My dad and them owned our house. Keith and our family, Reverend Perez, we own our houses. So when you own a house, you're gonna take care of it. Even some of the houses that were being rented, they tried to take care of them. But see, the slumlords knew what was getting ready to happen. They knew what was getting ready to go on. Now let me show you something. This row of houses here, this was Denny Street in the 700 block. Now I know all of y'all, and some of y'all might not know, Spencer E. Jones III, that started this, lived in these row of houses. His house was the only last house standing when they came through. I'm jumping all around because I don't have that much time, but I just want to let you know that this history that we're talking about, it's not something I'm talking about that my grandparents, that my parents, I'm talking about what we can tell you about because we lived it. We are history. And you know what? Back in the day, we used to be mad at what happened to us, but not no more because we became history. And that's what it's all about, being a part of history. See this house here? This house, 3-story house. The Forest House, beautiful house. Now, do you think they showed that when they used to come to Fulton? No, that was too much like being right. So what they had to do, one of those slumlord houses where they had maybe a rag in the window or maybe some sheets at the window. That's what they show. That's what they want you to think we lived in. Huh, yeah. Some people that still lived at the part that they call Fulton Bottom, yeah, they still had outdoor plumbing. But the majority of us, we had indoor plumbing. We used to get mad when they used to talk about Fulton Bottom. We have where Mr. Joseph Highsmith, and they told the story of how they felt about Fulton and what Fulton was all about. Now, as we talk about that story, when I say we are history, we are history. When I know all of us at one point have looked at one of those movies where the slaves was trying to get away and the master was trying to catch them. Well, let me tell you a story that's actually true. 12 years old, I'm going up the hill on Dennis Street, because we had a little hill we had to go up on Dennis Street to get to my great aunt house. My best friend up there was Carol Tisdale. Carol Tisdale and I had nothing else to do one day. So we wants to get real spontaneous, like we bad girls. What you want to do? I get sick and tired of them telling us we can't go up on Fulton Hill. What you want to do? You want to go? So we strutting up Government Road. We strutting, cars blowing, we thinking they neighbors. Because that's what we was taught to do. Blow your horn, hey, wave. But we didn't know what we was getting ready to get into. By the time we got to National Street and Government Road, we stopped. And here come a pickup truck with the good old boys in it. Started blowing the horn. And when he shot that gun up in the air, the words that came out the mouth was, "You little nappy-headed niggas, get off our hill." We looked at each other, we turned, and you talking about, I should have went on to track. I never rained so hard in my life. Oh Lord, please let us get back. By the time we got back to Government Road and Dennis Street, they turned around. We sit there and we were so thankful. But it's so funny how the same hill that told us to get off it, don't come on it, because we didn't belong. When Richmond Redevelopment and Urban Renewal wanted to start taking our homes, it's different for you all. Y'all say, I'm moving. Yeah, I'm moving somewhere else. We didn't say that. We were uprooted. That hurt. We were uprooted. Uprooted and moving is two different things. When you ask my family to leave where we have came, from my granddad and my grandmother starting at home now, my uncle being born in 29, my mom in 34, me in 52, and my son in 70. That was grounds for that home at 208, her home in the 500 block, and the field. We should have stayed in our houses. All they had to do was let us just keep on, remodeling it and fixing it up. Those shabby landlords, if they wanted to move, fine. But you know, back in the day, they thought that little bit of money. So when they started asking us to move, everybody didn't want to come to Fulton here. They only started out giving up $15,000. It was $15,000, $20,000, $22,000. Now the people that was renting, you know, they had to struggle. But the homeowners were the one that actually got money to move wherever. Some moved in South Side, some moved over North Side. They moved all over, and quite a few. We still have a house here on Iron Drive and on Carlisle Avenue, which is my granddaddy and which is my great aunt. But I couldn't move up here, because all I could hear was, "You little nappy-headed nigga, get off our hill." But I came to visit my family, and my son stayed up here with them. But all of us that came out of Fulton, I dare anybody to put in a paper that we were so poor that the very first festival, the Fulton Festival we had, a woman asked. I said, here we go with the crazies, what she heard. I heard that y'all was so poor that y'all didn't have shoes on your feet. Y'all couldn't afford clothes. Go back. This was at the old Calvary Church when it was on Orleans Street. That's me, that's the leader. This made, yes it is. We call that the June wedding. Every year, they had a June wedding. And if you look at all of these pretty white gowns, some of these gowns are still in style now. And this was back in the 50s and the 60s. These were our clothes. Some were made, some were brought. We had Buster Brown shoes, the beige and brown, the black and white, and when we were babies, which I will show you before it's over with, we had on white high top striped rights. We wore the best of clothes and we ate the best of food. People say we was poor. Lying. We was rich. A community so rich that on Saturdays, it was a treat just to get on the bus because we had cars. We had cars. We had cars. Didn't you see it in front of Mr. Downer's house? We had cars. No, not everybody, but hell, not everybody now have a car. So, I mean, so what's the difference? You know, everybody don't have a car, so but we had it. But we would get on that bus to Broad Street 6, where you either go downtown, stop off, go to G.C. Murphy's or Woodward, get a hot dog, french fries, and a Coke. Or either we would stay on the bus and go out to Willalong. And we just walk around in Willalong. At one point, were we upset and mad? Yes, we were. We were real upset and mad. But then as time went on, I think all of our families, our ancestors, our grandparents, our parents will be proud because the ones that you see here, we are the elders now. We are the last of the Mohegans. And guess what we're doing, people? We're making sure that our history be told. We're making sure that the lies were told on us were not true. We are telling the truth. I'd like to thank everybody that had a whole lot to do with that. I will never forget Spencer E. Jones III. When you go down by the park that is there, him and Mr. Earl Robinson, along with Mr. Earl Robinson house. Now that's the oldest house in historic Fulton. It was built in '63, but that's the oldest house there. And around his house where they built all the new houses, you can't tell that's the oldest house because it blends right in with the houses that are down there now. This is on Orleans Street as you coming out of Route 5, going down Main Street, going to the H.T. Street Market. It was called the Train Shack. Behind that train shack on that same block was two houses. One was a red brick house and a two-story house where I lived at. Do you think they came and took pictures of her house, Keith's house, Maria's house? No. They took pictures of everything but that. It was just like you taking pictures of somebody with no teeth in the mouth, the wig cooked side, and say that's who we want to take the picture of. But they never took a picture of that. Are we hurt? Yeah. Because I'm going to tell you the truth. I always thought that 208 Orleans Street would be our family history landmark. And at holidays, them same pies that my grandma made will be steaming out the window when we have Thanksgiving dinner. So yeah, we're still a little hurt because our roots were taken away from us. But now, we're on a mission. And we're trying to make sure that mission be successful before we leave here. We have accomplished so much. We, as Reverend Perez and one of our friends that have gained her wings, her, Corliss Johnson, and Keith and Spencer started the Oral History Project. And they went around to all of the families and started going into their homes, getting the true story. So all of you guys will know the true story of Fulton, Fulton Bottom, the field, but know the true story of historic Fulton. And with Spencer carrying that torch and staying in his house till they took his roof off, he had no more lights, sleeping in the tub, rats running around. He stayed there till he couldn't stay no more. With him starting this fight, him and then Mr. Earl Robinson came a part of it. Then after that, Keith Conlon. Keith hung in there with Spencer. One point we all thought they were crazy. When the fires used to start, when the floods used to start, when they started shutting us down, Keith and them used to sleep in the church to make sure it wasn't nothing stole. So see, we got a whole lot of history with us. We got so much history. Morrell's that he was a post office, worked for the post office. They all had good jobs. His family full of Mars. My granddad worked at nasty GRTC, but back then it was the Virginia Transit Company. He took care of the blacks. We used to go to the beaches. I know I'm bouncing all around because I'm just so excited because I just want to let you to know everything that we did that they lied on us. We lived a good life. Fried chicken, all that good stuff. Showing up hams where you had the sauce, the tear apart, and that tear apart would go into the green. Talking about some good cooking. Them biscuits that your parents know how to put their hands into. The pies, the cakes. We were rich. Don't you ever think that we were poor, because we were rich as can be. I'm not gonna hold you up. It's a few more things that Mr. Chambers wanna say, and then after that, we're gonna close it out with letting you know what we have actually done now, to let you know our history will live on even when we are not here. Listen.
Tracy, you might be able to chime in on this, or Chuck. I've always looked at the Fulton Gas Works, and puzzles me as to what's going on. Why are there no condos there? Why hasn't that land been developed, and so on and so forth? Yes, sir?
Currently owned by the city. They're doing it's a so-called brownfield site. So they're right now they're remediating the land. It's going to take at least another 2 years.
Right, and that's the point.
And then the city's going to issue an RFP for developers to do something with the property.
Good point. I was made aware of this this morning, and last weekend in talking to Tracy about just that reclamation remediation process that's taking place. Well, it's sort of a bitter pill for me to swallow, because at the height of the Civil War, when that plant was providing lighting and heating for the city of Richmond in its entirety for the most part, they had to pull the white gentlemen that operated that plant offline. They had to go to the front lines of the Confederacy to fight the war, or work down in the Confederate shipyard and building the ships. But they had to go somewhere. When they created that vacancy, the lights in Richmond were about to go off. But City Council allocated $30,000, and what did they do with it? They bought some slaves. And the slaves kept the lights on and running. Yes, I mean, that's a fact. Now, again, the demise of the Fulton Gas Works around mid-1950s. And they had a junkyard dog down there that used to run around all the time and do whatever. The dog died. And they had a formal burial for the dog on the gas works. Okay. And now remediation. I'm certain they probably have dug up the carcass of that dog by now. But the point I'm really trying to make is, with the tar pits, the unlined waste dumps that permeated that land, all of those years, that water infiltrated underwater ground table and ran directly into Gillis Creek, which emptied directly into the James River. Who do you think swam in Gillis Creek? Who do you think swam at the river? The kids from historic Fulton. So how many of us have incurred some sort of carcinogenic disease or whatever the case may be based upon the exposure back then until this day, and we are dying off?
That's right.
I'm not here to stand before you saying that the Fulton Gas Works is the culprit of that, but as an old song goes back into the 80s and 90s, because some of you stoners, when y'all heard me come in, walk in singing, take a little trip. Things that make you go, so it wouldn't surprise me one bit if some of us got together and levied a class action lawsuit against the city of Richmond, Fulton Gas Works, the developers, or whoever the case may be. But the problem there would be that you got private developers, you got city government, and you got insurance companies coming together as a conglomeration to make sure that remediation process takes place. And on that note, I would like to say one last thing. How many of you know what a globe is? Okay, where's the globe? As it relates to Fulton and Fulton Hill. Know it? Anybody? Well, the globe is right over there at the top of that hill and at the bottom of that hill. That gentleman over there, Mr. Keith Conley, and some of his buddies, I wasn't a part of it, I was a church guy. When it snowed, they wanted to sled.
Yes.
They wanted to come up the hill to Fulton Hill, Powhatan Hill, the seat of the Powhatan Confederacy, come up here, and they wanted to slide down the hill on the cars and the hoods of those cars that weren't running, that we had taken off, and we was using the sleds or cardboard or whatever, and slide down the hill. Couldn't do it. Why was that? The white kids would not allow us to come up to the top of the hill to slide down. So this is where conciliation, compromise comes into place. We made a deal with them. Said, okay, y'all want to sled too, don't you? They said, yeah. They said, but we said, what goes up must come down. If we get to the top of the hill, y'all let us slide down. When y'all slide down, y'all got to come see us. So therefore, there was a union and an agreement made between the two neighborhoods, which I believe was the infusion and the starting process for what we now know as Greater Fulton. Because we came to an agreement for the benefit for the entirety of those two communities for fun and enjoyment. So I want to get into the details as far as the volatile organic chemicals and so on and so forth as it relates to what's on the brownfields for Fulton Gaswork, and I'm going to pass that baton back to my able-bodied sister.
And as we get ready to close out, this is the new Fulton that's happening. We have so much famous people that made records, played with professional people. You know how y'all go, girl, child, let me tell you, I'm going to my high school reunion. Is you? Did you have a good time? Well, Fulton did one up better, and it was history. We went to our elementary school reunion. Now, how many people can go to their elementary school reunion? The oldest student there was 100. So we started with that 100-year-old hit to the 90s, to the 80s, and here we go, we the 70s. And the 60s sitting right here, you know, and the church in Caffrey filled up with nothing but Wesper Davis Elementary School reunion. Now we have a recording artist in here. She has a CD. She said she thought of the words, she thought of the music. Our own Reverend Murray Perez, my childhood friend that made the song Fulton, We Love You. Tracy told me, I love that song. And everybody that heard it. So there is a recording song out about Fulton, We Love You, that was done by Reverend Murray Perez. We have so many wonderful artists that came out of Fulton that you just don't have a clue. We are so educated and so excited about what we have done. It took us 50-some years. I always say that crazy thing. Remember when they said that joke about, child, give them 50 acres and a mule. Well, y'all can keep the mule, but we glad we got them 50 acres and put that park called Historic Fulton Memorial Park in sight. So now, we fought hard, but we have a park. Phase 1 is finished. We went through some real dramatic where they wanted to start coming in, vandalizing. But you know, we're going to fight through that. Because if each one of us had to go down there and act like security, I'm staying in my grounds, because hear me, woman, I will roll. So now we have a park. We're getting ready to step into phase 2. We are all excited. But you got your picture? When you were small?
No. I
That's
forgot.
okay.
I forgot. My Buster Brown shoe picture.
As they say, y'all didn't have any shoes on. Pat, Reverend Perez got one. All the little young girls that was grown up. Here I am now and then. Okay? Dude, I look poor. Look like any normal child that came in the world that parents loved them, took care of them. And from looking at me, didn't miss a ball, didn't miss a meal. Brown face, fat legs, healthy as can be. So here we are, the former residents at our groundbreaking of the park. And it is historic Fulton Memorial Park.
I have a question.
Ask it, boo.
Can you enlighten us how long it took them to actually build the park?
Oh, yeah. When Spencer started with trying to get the land for the park, we were going to be here, there, and everywhere. This started back, Keith, when? When did y'all really started trying to get this park?
1970,
Yeah,
71.
yeah. And we finally cut the ribbon last year.
And guess where it's located? At the base of the globe.
At the base of the globe. So when you stand, you see our park. And guess what? I always told people, don't you ever say, although there was a part of Fulton that was called Bottom, I lived in Rockettes. See, I lived in Rockettes. I was not at the bottom of anything. Our life was at the bottom of nothing. Our life was at the top of everything. Because, whether y'all know it or not, you know why they so mad? Because we, the 800 families that lived in Fulton, and we are the birthplace of Richmond. Can you imagine being the birthplace of Richmond? Us poor folks, as they call us, but they just didn't know. We was rich and rich as can be. And we are so thankful that the families that we came from, our ancestors, our grandparents, our parents, kept us strong so we can do this. So now, we're going to stand our ground, and we're hoping that God will allow us to finish this, because not only that I'm standing here telling you this, we did the oral history project, we are at the BCU, we are at the Valentine. In fact, the Valentine got us, when you go to Valentine, push a button, you can hear us tell our story. We are at the NRC, we're at Calvary Church, we're at the Black Museum, we are all over. We are at universities. We are now, and yes, I'm gonna brag when I say this, we are history, and we are proud of it. So, from Marrell, Larcenia, Reverend Perez, Keith Conley, and Linda Diane Eggleston Sutton, we thank you for coming out. We hope you enjoyed this little tit-tat, and please come back when our history lady,
April 20th, Keith will be doing a presentation on
he's
animal
going to be
breeding.
doing a presentation of that came out. You know, us dumb folks, but he came from out there. So we weren't as dumb as people say we were. We were smart and came from educated people. I thank you. Questions, concerns?
Do you want to talk about some of the things around the wall, or have we done that?
Now this, I love this one. This is in the Innovate Fulton. I asked Tracy, could she bring it? When we were doing our oral history, some of the stuff that we said, our names, Linda Braxton, Spencer Jones, me, Reverend Perez, Larcenia, Marrell, his mom, Lula Mae, some of that sketch, and this is how Fulton used to look, you know. And if you look at it, think about it now, this is back in what? 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So that looked good for like it looked now. I can take you to a part of the city and can show you some rundown houses look worse than the houses they talked about when we was coming up. But this, and Tracy actually told me how she got this map.
Yeah, these are from fire maps that were done back in the 50s and early 60s. And they came in like 5 different pieces that covered the neighborhood. And I pieced them all together to make the streetscape. But you'll see all these pictures. This is a perfect example of what Linda was talking about. A lot of these pictures came from the Richmond Times-Dispatch. And they did. They took pictures of the worst parts of the neighborhood
Yeah.
and put up there. You don't see a
You
lot
don't
of
see-
beautiful houses.
You don't see far as down that 3-story home up there, that beautiful red, oh, you don't see that up here, no, that's too much like, right, you know, but this is what you see.
Yeah, and they tended in the newspaper to either take pictures like this or when things were flooding. And that's
And
it.
this is when we were leaving out. It was a ghost town. When we left out, half of Rockettes had left. My granddaddy tried to stay till the very last. It was scary coming home at night, but we hung in there till they finally shut down everything, and we really did have to go. But this,
Yeah, that top picture up there, this one, shows from Libby Hill. Take a look at it before you leave. This is taken from up on Libby Hill, and you can see how big the neighborhood was. 'Cause what was it, like 250 acres? And you can see how populated it was with stores and homes and everything else.
So what does the colors mean on the map? The pink, the blues, the yellow?
The pinks, I think, were like, shops or like commercial properties.
Yeah.
And then the white
Commercial
ones
versus
were
residential.
actual homes.
Okay.
Yellow, I'm not sure, but I think anything that is like in a different color was either,
they were some of business, some
Some
of
were
was business, some of
businesses.
was the industrial, because we
Yeah.
had the head factory and all of the different,
or
that-
city properties and things.
Carl, didn't you have something in Fulton?
Yes, we were on the old Nicholson Street,
Right.
not where Stone Brewery is.
Potato factory. Potato
And-
factory, that's-
Over here, you really can't see it, but one of our teachers, Miss Estelle Braxton, she was our teacher. You think, we're in our 70s, and she was our teacher. She just gained her wings last year. But she was our teacher when we went to Westford Davis. These are the students. So as you can tell, we did the same thing they do now. Yearbooks with our pictures and all in it. Our teachers up there. These are some of the guys that became famous with some of the songs that they wrote, the 45s that they have out. This one,
With the Buster Brown, right there.
Busta Rhymes,
Right
oh,
there, right in the corner.
Right there,
Behind
yeah.
Ronnie.
yeah, that Keith with Dr. Marvin Bernard. That Marvin Bernard, we always knew he was gonna be a professor, a lawyer or something. Going to school to Westford Davis, he used to carry a briefcase, and he used to carry Corliss books. Such a little gentleman. And he used to carry books and carry his little briefcase going to school, but he is now a doctor, have met so many wonderful people. Our childhood friend. As you go around, we did the King and Queens. We got together and did a big thing called the King and Queens of Fulton.
Jay-Z,
Where?
right there,
Right, okay.
with
These-
Woody Hughes.
These are some of the famous people. Keith,
Let me do that for you. The guy up in the upper left-hand corner is G.C. Cole. His drum beat is the most sampled drum beat in music history, period. In music history. The guy beneath him is Woody Hughes. He's with Jay-Z, and if you don't know Jay-Z, that's Beyonce's husband. He's a billionaire. And he's with another Webster Davis School student and friend of ours, Woody Hughes. His guitar lick is one of the most sampled guitar licks in hip-hop music. Dr. Marvin Bernard, under me, integrated private schools in Virginia, period.
these are teachers from
Those
Westford.
are our teachers.
Yeah, this Miss Braxton here.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
Miss
when we went
Braxton
to-
on my
Yeah,
RV.
this is when we went to
Yeah.
Red Lobster for King and Queen.
And you got guys like Barry Green from our neighborhood. He was the his online oral history is on the University of Richmond. He is the first African American student who lived on the campus at University of Richmond. My old school teacher, Miss Braxton, she used to look and say to us all the time, remember, can't nothing good come out of Fulton. But the first medical student at the University of Richmond from our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Practiced
something
medicine
good.
in Arizona for 48 years. He died a few years ago. And so we've got a lot of
So we
people.
have
And of
all
course, Admiral Samuel L. Gravely, the first commander, the first captain, the first admiral, the first to command the entire fleet. That's 25% of the Earth's surface. And if any of you have been watching the news in the last couple of months of what's going on in the Red Sea, it is the USS Gravely that's named after him that is shooting down the Houthis missiles. But nothing good can come out of Fulton.
And last but not least, this alone is history. Reverend Murray Perez, you got to be a good friend to ask her to unfold this blanket, because this blanket
Yeah.
is sacred. See this blanket here? Every family that was in Fulton, every family, their name, if they had a phone, there's a little symbol of a phone beside their name, letting you know who was in Fulton. So if we ever forget who was in Fulton, we can go to Reverend Murray Perez, that she holds this blanket dearly. Hey, it wasn't they have a phone? Let me see.
Who made
And
that?
she also has
Who made that blanket?
Reverend
Oh, you made
Perez.
just, okay.
No, tell her who made it.
Bessie White, do you know, Sherman and Lawson High?
Yeah.
Okay. Her father and his father were brothers, but she made the quilt. She's deceased now.
Okay.
But she made the quilt. And she got it from the 1950 census that's on these papers. They had every family listed, and they had a little bell on it to show that they would have telephones, but of course during that time they had party lines.
Right.
But it came straight from the census.
Okay, so is that chalk or something, or what is that made out of?
I
That-
have no idea.
It's stitched, oh, okay.
It's stitched.
It's stitched.
It's white stitch.
White stitch,
It's
oh,
white
wow.
stitch. She,
okay.
it's white stitch. I mean, we'll just let it stay up here so you can get a closer look at
Okay.
it. But this is what I'm saying. This is history. This is history when you can sit and take the time to do that. And it took a whole lot of time to
Sure
do
did.
that. So what I'm just saying, and I just don't want to kind of dwell it in your head, but I just want to let you know that what you always read or see in the paper is not always true. I have learned that because we have lived it. And living it, now when I look at some of them TV programs, I'm going, wow, we got our own history. They need to do a story and get us some movie rights and let us get up there and tell our true story. So once again, we would like to thank Chuck and Tracy for allowing us to come and share our story with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Pat, you want to close it out with singing the song?
I need some participation. Oh, Lord, if y'all can just clap so I can have a beat. Oh, yeah. Thank this God. I remember in my childhood life didn't have much misery or strife. I lived in a place called Fulton, where everyone was family and everyone called friend. Oh, Fulton, I love you so. I remember as children we could walk the streets alone. Neighbors watched out for us. Their houses were our home. Said we cared for each other, whether sister, friend, or brother. Oh, Fulton, There's many stories to tell. One day outsiders came to tear you down, but they can't erase our dignity. No, they can't erase our history.